and we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to
Hey.
SVT time. It is Tuesday. It's SVT time. This is I don't even know what episode. What I think it's episode 75.
I was going to say 70. I was going to guess 76.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. Like I said, it's another Tuesday. We got a great guest with us today. Kurtis, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, man. How are you guys?
I'm doing awesome. Of course, Dom is.
I got bills, so I'm good.
And I am completely empty.
We're ready, guys.
I feel so left out. I didn't have enough time to go grab a cup, but
it's all good.
Man, and we have all our viewers that tune in every Tuesday here. We got Paul, we got he's gonna hate me for mispronouncing his name again, but Raichu, and Kirk, and yeah, this is like the too late in Germany for coffee. No, it's never too late for coffee.
I think you're right. I'm
with you there.
Last time it was like sneezing.
So I think so, right? Raichu.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, welcome everybody. I'm just reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
Kurtis, what's going on, dude? So last time I saw you, you were here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
On tour with Grace.
Yep.
We did a rig rundown, which we're still, not that there's a lot to edit to the rig rundown, but there's just such a backlog of video content that I promise we're going to get this out at some point.
He was trying to edit all the real secrets, so nobody else has those, you know.
Yeah, right.
but no,
it was funny.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that was a fun day, man. It was very cool. Yeah, we were up in Guilford, and it's like, you know, the most famous like amphitheater, I feel like, because the hospitality is just amazing, and there's just like so many stories of all the cool things that happen there, like so many great shows. So that was like one of the shows I was so stoked that you were able to come to.
Oh, so, thank you. Yeah.
Does Grace does she draw a little bit more up northeast, because she's from Vermont, right?
Yeah,
she is from Vermont. Yeah, so very much like the Northeast is like, you know, there's a lot of pull up there for her.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Guilford show, it was really cool. We did this summer, we did 10 dates, and we were main support for Chris Stapleton on 10 shows.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was really special to be out there with them, and just everyone's the absolute nicest out there. So so of all the shows that, like, you know, Dino came to, that was a good one to see, I feel like.
Yeah, and this venue, for anybody that's not familiar, Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion, which is their corporate name, it will always be Meadowbrook Farms to me. That was the original name, and because it's right on Lake Winnipesaukee. If you've ever seen the movie What About Bob, that's that's
right.
That's the lake that What About Bob was shot on. Anyways, it's a big vacation resort. It's right on the lake, and the big claim to fame with most touring musicians is the backstage. At Meadowbrook is like, they've got mini putt-putt, they've got a swimming pool, they've got basketball courts. But the catering,
bicycles, catering.
The catering is like lobster rolls, surf and turf, oysters. Like, it's just they go all out for the art. Yeah,
it's one of those. It's just one of those. I mean, hospitality just makes the biggest difference when you're on the road. You know? And Guilford, I feel like that's 100% the reputation, because leading up to that show, like at the beginning of the year, everyone's like, we'd come across, like, oh, you're playing Guilford, like, be sure to like ride the tricycles, like play basketball, like miniature golf, and you can take the bicycles down to the lake, and there's a swimming pool, and like someone even said they even had like a zip line, but I didn't see that. Maybe they set that up for certain things, but yeah, like the lead up to it was like, what is this place? And you know, and someone's like, yeah, then they like bring out a canoe full of oysters, you know. It's like, seriously? And then, like, sure enough, it like all happened, you know, and it just like really exceeded everyone's expectation. And And just like those moments are like so special for everybody who's in the touring industry, because it kind of gives you that little slice of home, when you're away from it. So
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. So
Because I mean, and just to give somebody the perspective of that, because I mean, not that I don't go to a lot of shows. I don't go to a lot of backstage shows. So, sorry. So that and like TD Garden in Boston and the house, like all the smaller venues are kind of my norm. Like, what are most outdoor venues or sheds like outside of Meadowbrook Farms? Like I know it's kind of an exception to the rule, but I'm assuming they got to be somewhat similar, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think like all the ones that I've done have their own little slice of personality. There's definitely, like, we did a couple down in Florida this year as well, and one of them had a pool too. So that was like really cool to get off stage, and like immediately we all change into our bathing suits and we just went straight to the pool,
Yeah.
instead of like taking a post-show shower or something. That's like what we did, but but
Yeah.
um and but like there's I think what is really special about a lot of sheds is just like kind of just the overall environment and atmosphere. Like even if like a venue doesn't have a pool or something, they're going to have something else that is like something special. Like they might have a dedicated hangout area with lots of cool lights and like a lot of really nice seating, and just
Yeah.
there's just like a lot of thought that goes into some of these places sometimes. And I mean, Guilford is just like one of those exceptions where they just really go over the top. But of course, and then there's like some out there that are like you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So if you wanted to like go into town or something like that, it's a decent Uber ride, or like
Yeah.
decent ride for the runner or something like that. But I like, honestly, like when you're doing sheds, it's just really great to be in those environments in general,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something with my life.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you're
I don't know.
and you're outside too. You're not like
Yeah,
you're not in like a big, like the TD Garden, or you're not in a cement building. You at least get to go outside
right.
and spend like the whole day is spent outside or on the tour bus, or you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
walking the
exactly.
hallways backstage sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like a lot of people do this, but it is really cool in those moments where you can just like during the day before doors, you just walk to the top of the lawn and just kind of relax in the lawn for a little bit. Was something that you know the the drummer and I did, and like the rest of the band, we would just kind of go hang out in the lawn and just literally lay down, soak it
Yeah.
up, and be goofballs. So, like you said, you're outside.
Yeah.
So,
It's good
yeah,
perspective. It helps you not make it feel so routine so that you forget how cool it is and how, unique
yeah,
it is that you get to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, man. Yeah, I definitely
Cur-
don't take any of that stuff for granted. So,
Chris, let's talk a little bit about your background. So,
yeah,
where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Rochester, New York. So,
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah,
That's right. I remember
yeah,
you told me that too when we were chatting backstage too, but because I know we had the conversation about the Hog House of Guitars, and that whole exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, originally from Rochester, New York, and um, I kind of bounced around a little bit. Grew up playing, and that's like where I learned, like that's where I picked up the bass, and started playing with my buddies,
yeah.
and we had. I'm like really grateful for that time in Rochester, just because it is a really good music city. Um, you have the Eastman School of Music, uh, and so like anywhere you would go, there would just be a lot of
Yeah.
really great music happening there, you know.
Yep.
I didn't really like realize it at the time, you know, just like how special it was to have really talented people around. Like my jazz instructor in high school is just like this wealth of knowledge and such an advocate for the jazz scene, like even like to this day, you know.
Yeah.
And um, you know, me be like I kind of gravitated towards like the rock and roll thing, and like, you know, as like every bass player, we go through the different phases. Like, you know, you discover the Victor Wootens and the Jocos, and so you kind of dive into the jazz thing a bit.
Yep. Yep.
And you know, that like little sliver of my life that I kind of dove into that stuff, like now realizing like, holy cow, I was really it was really fortunate to have, you know, Bill Tiberio as kind of someone to, you know, kind of look over me and kind of help guide me in some ways, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but then yeah, I left Rochester when I was 19 because I was in a band with my best friends, and we're still best friends to this day. Like these are all friends that we go, you know, the relationships go back to elementary school, and um, and we had been playing music together for so many years, like all throughout high school, and it was just that bond of like, wow, we are best friends, but we are just playing music for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like we had a little jam space in downtown Rochester that we were renting, and we would just stay there all night, just playing and jamming. And we just like we didn't want that to stop. So
Sure.
when Elliot like came to us, he was like, "Hey guys, I got accepted to ASU in Phoenix." And then like our drummer was just like, "Well, looks like we're moving to Phoenix," you know.
No
And so,
kidding.
swear to God, yeah.
Wow.
And so we were like, well, let's think about this. And you know, we took some time to like really think it through. And yeah, we all like Elliot went to ASU, and then 6 months later, the rest of us like we moved out to Phoenix, and
Wow.
we continued the band out there.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like we kind of like had a little bit of, you know, I don't want to say regional success, but like we were playing quite a bit all throughout Arizona, and we got to
Yeah.
know that scene out there and make a lot of great friends, and friends I'm still, you know, still friends to this day. And and then the way I like to describe it, like, you know, 3.5 4 years into living into Phoenix, to save our friendship, we were like, the band needs to break up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
and and so that was like one of the healthier decisions I feel like I've ever made in my life, because to this day, like we're still super close, you know, and
Wow.
just life took us down different ways. So
Sure.
yeah,
But the friendship came first.
yeah,
And then the
totally.
band, you know, and then you followed the friendship, and you guys just
Hmm.
happened to make music together and enjoyed making, which you know, that's like that is the ever reoccurring theme that Dom and I talk about all the time. It's like
Yeah,
high
yeah,
school bands. Like, where did you get your start? Oh, I was in the high school band, and because of this music teacher and we had a great music program, and you know, friends just kind of hanging out. And oh, I'll play bass, you play guitar, and it's been the reoccurring theme. And it's such a really cool story. That is so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I am so grateful for it. I'm looking at the comments and I see Chris Kuhar. What's up, Chris? Another
Do
friend from Phoenix.
do you
Nice.
know
From that.
Chris? Do
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Oh, right
Yeah,
on.
that's
Cool.
awesome.
Very
So,
cool.
but yeah, I'm so um I'm just like so grateful for that period of my life, because that there like my music background, like a lot of it really just stems from playing in the room with other people, with
Mhm.
my friends. And like, you know, sure, like I had like the educational background, and like, you know, you do all the studying for like theory and all that stuff, but I'm not like a wizard with all of it, you know. It's
Yeah.
just I've just like relied on my ears to kind of like when you're playing with other people, you listen, you like, especially from a young age when you're learning all this cool stuff and you just start like playing and playing and playing and you're like playing all this cool stuff and like you look over and your friends are looking at you like, what are you playing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you're like, in those moments, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just lay back and, you know, do the thing, you know?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like
Yep.
those like engagements, you know, that kind of like force you and make you realize like, oh, yeah, we're up here like listening to each other and we're playing.
Right.
And, you know, and that's kind of like, I just a big, uh, you know, I just credit a lot of that to just like playing for hours and hours with my friends, just in the basement or in the
Yeah.
jam space, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but,
So
but yeah.
what did you go right to LA from Arizona, or did you come back to the East Coast, or?
So after Arizona, my girlfriend at the time got a job in North Carolina. And so then we moved to North Carolina. And I was there for a year and a half. And I was pretty fortunate. Like I got a gig with this band that we did some like a lot of regional touring all throughout the Southeast, and it was cool because it was like it was a it was a band that did a lot of corporate gigs and a lot of privates, but also paired with like a handful of original shows here
Mhm.
and there. The scale definitely leaned more towards like corporate and privates at times, but the few times it would work out, it was like, okay, cool, we're in Savannah, Georgia, let's say on a Friday, but we have like a private in Savannah on Saturday. So we'll do like an original show on the Friday, then
Yep.
stay put to do the private on Saturday.
Yep.
Didn't always work out like that. Like a lot of times it was like Friday through Sunday or Thursday through Sunday or something like that. We were doing
Sure.
privates, um, but yeah, so I lived there for a year and a half, and at that time, my friend Elliot, who was in the band in Arizona, had moved to LA, and my heart was just pulling me to Los Angeles. So
Yeah.
then I came out here in 2012, the beginning of
Okay.
2012. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind
Did
of
you?
like all over the place.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, from Rochester to Arizona to North Carolina back out to LA. Now, when you came to LA, did you have anything lined up with Elliot, or was it just kind of grass?
He was definitely Elliot. Is very much a he's working musician in our world too. So it was nice to like meet the community through
Yeah.
him in a ways. But when uh, I did, like, I was fortunate enough to, like, when I moved to LA, I was able to land like a touring gig pretty quickly. And it's because of the relationships I made with people in Arizona and North Carolina,
Okay.
you know,
Interesting.
that's like, uh, that's like something that I like realized that, oh, cool. But and that first tour I got when I moved to town was with David Choi, and um, I believe, yeah, that pretty much came through a relationship with someone I met in North Carolina.
Wow.
So yeah, but then I was just going out every single night when I first moved to town. Like
Yeah.
there's this jam Super Soul Monday that was happening all the time, so I was going to that. Dom, you probably know about Super Soul
Yeah.
back when. So it's just I was just out every single night because it's like you're seeing world class musicians just at little spots just up there jamming and having fun, and I'm still inspired by it. But like when you first move to town, it's
Yeah.
just like this overload of inspiration and just holy cow.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. And
so
that's, in the time that I lived in LA from when I was in 91 to 98, and it was kind of the same thing. And it's like any town that you go to, whether it's Nashville, New York, LA, it's like you got to go out. You got to
yeah.
do the hang. You got to go hang with the musicians. You got to go to the jams. You
Hmm.
can't just like show up and say, "Hey, I'm here. Somebody give me a gig."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I've seen people
Not-
do that, but um,
doesn't quite work like that, but
Yeah. Now is LA, would you say LA is still like that? Are there still, like, I know actually I just found out the write-off room, which was one of the jam spots, is either for sale or it's moving or but that was like one of the hangs, the write-off room, and of course the baked potato was always a hang. And
yeah, that's still there for
yeah,
sure. There's a handful of spots that unfortunately closed down that were
yeah,
kind of staples and like institutions to the scene. But what's kind of nice is it's like it's kind of like equate it to like because I grew up riding BMX and like skate, like my friends who skated and whatnot. It's like, you know, you get, you find like a really great place to ride and you do your thing, and then the cops come and just like, you know, kick you out, and then they're like, you can't be here. So what do? You go find somewhere else to skate and ride,
right.
And
Yep.
so that's kind of like what, these places that have closed, it's like really sad to see, but the musicians are still going to want to play, and like they're still like the community,
Yeah.
which is the most important part. And so you're just going to like find somewhere else to play some music, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, and it's like just last night I went to see, Drew Taubenfeld did a show at the Elysian Theater, and it's like, I think that was the first time he said he had done a show there, and it was really great. But it was at like a different spot than where normally I've been in the past, but the community was still there, and
Yeah.
that's really what it's about. So
That's cool. That's so
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Um so you've been in LA since 2012. So
Hmm.
basically 12 years at this point.
Yeah.
What was like, I mean, your first tour, but what was like, I hate to use this term, but not like the breaking point, but what was like the shining moment where it's like, wow, this is happening. This is, and is that still going on in your life? Because
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it always does, obviously.
Yeah.
We all have those points, but I was just, like, is there ever a time where like a touring musician kind of sits back and goes, wow, this is my career now. This is my life. It's not just like I auditioned for the gig and I'm still trying to like get my feet.
Yeah.
Tell us
And I've
about.
met a lot of players that are like at the highest level, and after every tour, they're just like, "What do I do now?" And
Yeah,
they're not like putting in that like you're gonna be
yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, dude, we all our life is just a roller
yeah,
coaster. That's and it's like how you manage that roller coaster is really tricky sometimes,
sure.
Like it can be really difficult at times, but when you're on the highest of highs, it's really great, and even like the lows are really awesome too. It's just I always try to like, you know, you want to have the best perspective. I mean, like try and have
Yeah,
like a like just be optimistic, I suppose,
mhm,
and,
yeah,
and that's like it's really hard to do sometimes. But um, you know, I to answer your question though, I think it was like when I first moved to LA and I started to see the kind of just what the city has to offer. It's not just the music part of it. Like
yeah,
LA is such a cool, diverse city, and I had never really experienced that before. Growing up, uh, like LA, I feel like I can confidently say like it's the only city in the world where you can access every part of the world. And that's everything from like the diversity of like the cultures out here, and then even landscape, it's
hmm,
just one
yeah,
can say the same thing about New York City, but the thing that New York City doesn't have is that you can go to the mountains 20 minutes away, and then like you're in complete silence, and the atmosphere you're around feels like you're in Colorado, or
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're in the country of Georgia, like
yeah,
LA really does have all of that there. So I try to like whenever I'm feeling those moments of okay, I'm on a low on this roller coaster right now. There's so much around me to like inspire me and like help me balance,
yeah,
I love being outdoors with my dog, so we do that a lot. But yeah, I think when I felt like, oh, I'm doing something like this is working. It's not like doing something right. I don't want to say I'm like doing something right, like because we're all just trying to figure it out. But um, I I think when you realize, or like for me, when I realized that like the people I just love playing music with, like just really start to become my closest friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someone I can just have real conversations with, and and it's okay to like share whatever you're feeling, and you can feel confident. And because there is like a lot, there's a lot of that, man, how is everything? Oh, really busy, really,
Yeah.
things are
Yeah.
really good, and like and like and I get that, because like in a short amount of time, when you see someone you haven't seen in so long, like there's this like urge, you want to hold back, like, oh, let me tell you about all the cool stuff that has happened, or like I want to
Yeah.
share this sad thing with someone I feel like I can't like share with,
Yeah.
but like you when you start to make friends with everyone in your community, and it's like if someone is feeling a certain way, you can really just hit them up the next day and be like, hey, let's go for coffee, let's continue this conversation.
Yeah.
And like, okay, cool, well, I'll also see you on Thursday for this gig at Hotel Cafe. And then like everyone's playing the most beautiful shit ever. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
so inspiring, like these are my friends, holy cow.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of that like aha moment, if you will. I don't know if that's like an aha
Yeah.
moment, but it
Yeah.
just
No,
feels
absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not, and I guess I should have rephrased that too, because a lot of times it's not necessarily around the work that you have or the
Mhm.
work
Right.
it's the community that you've built or
Totally.
the community
Absolutely.
that you've been welcomed into. You know what I
Mhm.
Yeah.
mean? A lot of
Yeah.
times that's like, hey, whether I'm on the road or gigging, or, I don't have work right now, or I do have work, I'm part of a bigger thing
Right.
that's going to help me and nurture me, and I'll be able to give back to that when you're at the top of the roller coaster and one of your buddies is at the bottom of the roller coaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I'm part of that community that I can give back to too. So,
Yeah. Like
you
the
know,
community really is everything.
yeah,
It's everything. It can
yeah,
give you it gives you the highest of highs,
yep,
like
yep,
it really does, because it fulfills this this thing inside of you that, sure, like playing a gig at the Hollywood Bowl is going to fulfill you, and it's going to be overwhelmingly cool, but it's like that's only such a small blip.
right,
Mhm.
What really is going to fulfill you is just the relationships you have with
yeah,
your friends,
yeah.
so.
Because on Saturday you're going to be home scooping dog poop anyways,
And I love it. I will gladly pick up my dog's poop. Absolutely.
right? Yeah,
It's true.
serious,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
I think, yeah, well, go ahead, Dom.
I was just gonna say, and what I've experienced adjacent to Grace Potter's camp, one of my dear friends was Matt Musty, her former drummer, and that's how I met Kurtis. And yeah, I feel like that camp in itself is a family, and you guys are pretty. It seems like you really enjoy each other outside of music, so that's really a good thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's definitely like a superpower that Grace has,
Mhm.
she, like, you meet her for the first time and you feel like, wow, I've like known you for so long,
Yeah,
she just has
Yeah.
this like welcoming nature.
Yeah.
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean that when anybody that's never seen Grace Potter live, go see Grace Potter live because it is. It really is. It's such a great show, high energy, but I mean, she doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
She's a force, man. No, she does not hold back.
Absolutely. It's just a fun show, and of course with
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton, and it was a great show. But um, how long have you been with Grace now?
It's been 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
it's been 6
is
years
that a
now.
gig that you picked up in LA? Because it's funny because you being from Rochester and her being,
Yeah.
she based in Nashville or is she based in LA?
She splits her time between LA and Vermont. So
Oh,
she's
okay.
I feel like post pandemic it's the needles lean towards Vermont a
Okay.
little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, she split her time between the two
For
places.
some reason, I thought she had ties to Nashville too. But my question being was, it's funny, you guys, both kind of being East Coasters,
Right.
and obviously, I'm assuming you picked up her gig while you were in LA through connections in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And like Dom said, yeah, that came, like Matt Musty and I were doing, some sessions together and some gigs.
Yeah.
So, and I don't, that's like the vessel, how that came to be. But yeah, I was out in LA, when that happened. So
Yep.
just LA's full of those, like, you know, all these gigs that happen. You're like, how in the world would this like, you just never expect, like,
Right.
you just never expect. There's just so many different types of gigs. Like, there's no ceiling, and
Yeah.
the different calls,
Yeah.
which is cool.
That's
So,
cool. How about some of your
yeah.
other gigs? Like, I know I had posted, some of the artists that you work with, like
Yeah.
Jackson Brown and Mickey Thomas and Lou Graham.
Yeah.
Like, where did
Yeah.
those? I'm assuming those came prior to, or do you still work with these artists?
Well, it's funny, like, the Lou Graham thing, we're both from Rochester, New York, uh, but that thing came to be like out when I was living in Los Angeles. So,
Okay.
it was just fun. Like, when we met, it was like, hey, I'm from Fairport, and he's like, hey, I live in Pittsford, like, just name dropping those suburbs, um, but yeah, those, like, the Jackson Brown thing, that was, we did like a short set with him with Grace at one of Grace's festivals. And that's like, that was such a fun story because, I think it was like, like, the encore set is going to be like a Jackson Brown set, and he's going to come out and we're going to play, a lot of those songs, like those hits, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-night festival. And from what I remember, I think it went like, Jackson had so much fun that he, like, changed his flight to stay an extra day because he wanted to do it again.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we did it like 2 nights in a row, and that was super fun. Um, and but the going back to the Lou Graham and the Mickey Thomas stuff, and even Terry Nunn, that was like that was kind of my my lane before playing with Grace. And what was really cool with those artists was that, we were traveling around the country. It was all fly dates, but we would go to a particular city and we would play with that city's symphony.
Oh wow.
So it was cool because, like,
Wow.
we had like the assembled rock band, and we would like rehearse the tunes, but then we would go to that city and play with that symphony. So what was really fun about that was, a lot of us, like, we had to read because there was a lot of, things that, little riffs or licks that are
Sure.
memorable in those songs that, like, say, the violins were also doing too. So,
Yeah.
everyone kind of had to know, like, do their homework, because, like, you're reading and you can't just, like, fake the lick
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're playing it. The violins are playing it with you and they're reading
Like
their
double
ass off.
basses,
You
it's
know?
like just yeah.
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 Like I think, from what I remember, like, one thing that I remember that was like really cool whenever we did the Lou Graham stuff, or like Cold as Ice, like that bass line,
Mm.
from what I remember, was always really cool because, like, the basses in the orchestra were doubling it with me, that, like,
Wow.
cool syncopated thing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it was like, there was like cool moments where I was like, oh yeah, this is sweet.
And there's no faking your way through that.
No, so, but yeah, that was like really fun. And Mickey was just like such a cool dude, like such a nice guy. And one thing that always blew me away about about Mickey was, I think at the time he was like 70 years old, 72 or something like that.
Wow.
And I think of all the songs that we did, like we maybe changed the key like down a half step on one song. So
Wow.
he was like, find your way back, just singing that high note right out the gate, and just like, what? like,
Right.
like,
Right.
holy cow. It's just mind blowing
Wow.
to just like see him still do that. And he's just so cool about it. He's like, hey, what song are we doing? Find your way
Yeah.
back. Cool.
Yeah.
Then he's just like,
Hey, just hit it.
crazy.
Imagine.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so cool. Did you have to approach, and not to switch gears on,
No.
not to switch gears to gear, but
That
gotta love my segues, Dom, right?
was
Come on.
good. John.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
That
know.
was good, Dino.
But did you have to did you have to prepare differently when you're playing with an orchestra versus playing with a full-on rock band? Because obviously I know, your dynamic's completely different on stage. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, those were like playing those big rock songs, it's just like you want to be able to have like an SVT behind you to just like push the air, but unfortunately, bass was direct. I think I
Yeah.
had like one of those pads I was standing on to like feel the rumble, sort of like a butt picker. I can't remember
Yep.
what those are called, but I think I like had one of those a couple shows. But yeah, we had to go direct because the orchestra is right behind us. So
Yeah.
we kind of needed it to be as quiet as possible, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like preparation goes for that, it's like I tried to always put myself in the mindset of like, cool, I'm playing these songs and I'm just gonna learn the song because it's like these are all songs I heard my parents playing growing up. So it's like I remember like trying to channel that just like fun, youthful energy,
Yeah.
but with just like a mature ear,
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
because like these songs are so fun to play, but at the same time you're having to read, you're having to read,
Yeah.
so you have to be really cognizant of that. And what was fun, like my little time in that world, I somehow got appointed the band leader. And so like I had like to sit down with the conductor, because how the day would go is like we fly in, we do the show, or we do sound check, and then I would have a meeting with the conductor, and often the drummer would come with me too, because we would just discuss tempos.
Yep.
And then we would just go through song by song, and we would just make sure the chart that the band was reading and the orchestra, what they were reading, was in sync.
Yep.
And so there were like a couple times where Mickey was used to a particular ending, I remember, but it wasn't notated in the chart. So
Mhm.
I had to, I just had to like clarify with the conductor, like, hey, instead of doing, this hit at the end, Mickey wants to,
Yeah.
he wants a trash can ending or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
or he wants these 2 hits instead of 1 on the end, so then we would have like those meetings, and then we would play through the whole show, and that doubled as like the sound check. We just do a full run through of the show, make sure it's all good, and then break for dinner, and then
And then
do the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would they get the music ahead of time, or was that was the first time they were seeing the music when you guys were showing up for sound check? Because
The
that's
orchestra, like I wouldn't be surprised if the orchestra, it's like their first time seeing it.
yeah.
Like,
It's because a lot of people don't realize, especially spectators and fans, they don't realize that when a core group of musicians flies into a city and the orchestra is backing them, it's like they just saw that music like 3 hours ago, if that.
yeah. I actually, like, now that I think about it, that's a good point, because there were definitely a few artists or a few musicians that would show up, or like you could tell they showed up earlier than what their call time was.
Yeah.
And they're just they're going through everything. So they're 100% seeing the music, I think, for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're just like looking it over, making some notes or something like that. But then, most of the orchestra is just like, okay, like I feel it was always funny because I always felt like whenever we did these rock shows with the orchestra, they probably just thought it was the most cakewalk gig,
Yeah.
because like some of the stuff that they're doing is just like dun dun dun,
Right.
dun, dun,
Yeah.
when they're used to playing these like beautiful classical compositions, you know what I mean? So they were just like, oh, okay, cool,
yeah, but they're collecting their check at the end of the day, though, going, wow, that was actually a really good paying gig. And that's the thing too, like you said, you're playing music that I don't care what genre your study is in. You can't tell me like at some point somebody didn't hear a Starship tune. Or, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I'm actually playing this with the cat that's saying it, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was so fun. Like, this is a little anecdote. I remember we were in St. Louis, and one of the bass players in the orchestra, like, he came up to me and he was stoked. He was like, dude, I love this stuff. He grew up on this stuff, and he was like, can I show you something? I was like, yeah, of course. And he like runs to his locker and he comes out and he had, I think it was a 66 or a 68 P bass. And he was just like, check this out, man. This is, like, I've owned this thing for like my whole life, kind of a thing.
Wow.
And he's like, it's a sad, I just like never really get to play it because I'm always here, but I just like, it was one of those things that I remember like, wow, this is like, he's a bass player's bass player. Like bass players, like we have our community, we have our thing. Like, you hear it a lot. Everyone's like, bass players are just like kind of different. And it's true. And the stereotypes I love, and the bass player stereotypes crack me up. But at the core, it's like, no, it's like it's a real thing. Like we definitely have each other's backs, and like this guy was just like so excited to like show me his old P bass that was just like in his locker, but like playing those songs, man, like, we built this city. Say what you want about that song, but that song rips. Like those grooves are unbelievable. Like especially like all those Starship tunes. I just remember, like as a bass player, it was always so amazing to dive into the dynamics of eighth notes. Because you listen to a lot of those 80s ballads, and those eighth notes are just so on, and then you listen to like the funk stuff, the Sly stuff, and Larry Graham, the way he swung those eighth notes, and it's like just like a master class as like a bass player in like eighth notes in time. And I felt a lot of that like playing those tunes, and like how like to articulate the eighth note is so it's make or break of the groove.
Like you say, they're so on, but they're so off too, because it's like how like you say, how short do you play them? How staccato do you play them? Is it a synth part?
Man. So that was like a really
that's cool.
That was like a fun point.
Now, do you play upright at all?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't own one at the moment, but because I just, it was one of those things where my buddy like lent me his upright for so many years, and because he was on the road, and I was like doing a lot of upright gigs. But then when I started playing with Grace, I just just didn't really play it that much anymore. So but I love it. Like that's one of those instruments that I like really fell in love with when I moved to LA, because I did like a little bit in high school, but I never really spent a lot of time with it. When I moved to LA, and when I realized that was like a tool I needed in the arsenal, just like spending a lot of time with it is it's just a completely different beast, completely different animal. So it's like different everything, So I love the instrument so much. I would love to have one, but this little 2-2 home in Los Angeles doesn't really permit it.
I was gonna say same question for the aha moment of just like playing bass in general, like your love of bass. Do you have like a specific memory or moment where you're just like, that's my instrument?
Oh man, just like what I really like just made me fall in love with the instrument.
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely say, okay, so when I first started playing bass, I was a big Metallica fan growing up, and I played in the 8th grade talent show.
Mhm.
I played Anastasia, Pulling Teeth, that Cliff Burton solo
Sure.
Okay.
tune on Metallica's Kill 'Em All, and like when I learned that, um, I just felt so like fulfilled, you know,
Yeah.
that was like, wow, I can do this,
Yeah.
this feels really good. And that was, yeah, I was in 8th grade. Like I didn't play guitar first. Like I wanted to play bass. Um, I remember, um, it was like my friends at the end of the street I grew up on, and um, Mandy and Ben. And I remember Mandy, she was older. She had a band, and they used to rehearse in the upstairs bedroom at that house. And I would go down the street as a kid. It was like, oh, I'm going to go down the street and play with Mandy and Ben. Mandy was rehearsing with her band upstairs, and then Ben and I were just like we were probably watching like Simpsons reruns or something like that, And I just remember the house like shaking from the bass,
Yeah.
and like for some reason I like gravitated towards that. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And and that's like like that's what pulled me to like want to play bass. And so then my dad took me to the house of guitars, and then that's where I got my first bass. And then when I like learned Anastasia as like an 8th grader, I was like, wow, I pulled this off. This was
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Um, but yeah, I'm always I'm always like even still to this day, I'm like reminded, just when you play a groove with someone, or, you know, there's a lot of aha moments.
Yeah.
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 You know, there's
Yeah.
there's just so many. It's constantly evolving. So
But
uh,
you were also probably, and I know we've all gone through this. You were viewed as the kid in high school. Hey man, he knows how to play Anastasia pulling teeth.
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? Like in my day, it was like, hey, he knows how to play YYZ. Like he knows
Totally.
all the Rush tunes and all the Yes tunes. Like, wow, so that there's like a validation knowing that, you've gone from playing, a simple bass line to like, wow, I could play Geddy Lee stuff, or I could play Chris Squire stuff, or I could play Cliff Burton stuff, sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that thing like we were talking about like earlier, like playing in the room with your buddies. It's just like
Yeah.
you learn these, you know, you learn these licks, you learn these things, and then it's like, oh, early on, I want to show off, and I want to like because everyone cares about that, and
Yeah.
They know.
It has to happen.
yeah, exactly, and then you're like, and then you realize that doesn't matter, and
Yeah.
so like you learn to just lay back,
Yeah. Yep.
and
Yep.
it's like, it's kind of like, um like I heard this in an interview. I don't know if this like kind of pertains to what we're talking about here, but it makes sense in my mind. But I heard this interview with Bob Glaub. It was like a podcast interview, and I just love him so much. He's just such
Bob is the
an
best.
amazing. He's the best,
Yeah.
and he like described himself as a plumber, and he's like, I'm just like that guy that you just like that really good plumber that you just like recommend to someone, like you
There's
come in and do the and then like I took it a step further, and I was like, dude, this is so deep, because like a plumber's job is to like, you don't want your work to be seen or
Yeah.
heard. I'm going to subtract the heard part, because we all feel as
Right.
bass players,
Right.
it's like
Right.
you hear and you feel it subconsciously, and it's just like that's when we're doing our job. But to be seen, it's just like a plumber is like, your job is to not be seen, you know?
Yep.
And I was just like, holy cow, that just like blew my mind. You know,
That is
and there's
such a
so many.
that is such a glob statement too.
Yeah.
Like
and
even
it's just like a
even the
seaway.
way you started saying it, the inflection in your voice, you like transformed into Bob Glob there for a second.
Ah.
But it's so true though. Like that's the approach
Yeah.
that guys like Glob take is like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a job that, and you're called upon because you do your job well.
Yeah.
People don't know when you do your job well. They only know when you do your job badly. You know,
Yeah,
that's that
yeah,
sort of thing.
totally.
It's
Yeah,
that's so funny.
absolutely.
We have actually we have another SVT time alumni and Ampeg artist, Mark Pacificar is
Mark?
Yes, Mark.
is calling in too, is chiming
What's
in.
up,
So hey
buddy?
Mark, how are you,
I love
buddy?
Mark. I gotta give a shout out to Mark here
Please do.
because this year especially, you know, it was a busy year with Grace. We did a lot of dates, and I had I took 3 bases out with me this year. I had, you know, my P base, my Mulan P that I
I'm
took
gonna show
out,
that.
and then the Univox, the High Flyer, and then the
Yep.
Hofner.
Yeah.
I took those 3 out with me this year, and they were all in their own separate Pelican cases. And so for like the sake of our crew, who I just love to pieces, they were like, is there like an option for like a case that has like multiple bases, you know? And because it's just like 3 separate cases that are
Sure.
just like one little thing that would just like make their life for loading a little bit easier. And so I hit up Mark, and I was just like, Mark, what's that case company you use? Enkey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so big thanks. Yeah, Ray Chu has got it. Yeah, Enkey.
Yep.
So Mark, big thanks to Mark for kind of like connecting me with
With Enki.
guys.
Did
And,
that work? Did that
um,
work out for you?
It
The
did.
Enki
The case
piece?
is cool. Yeah, the case is cool, and I haven't seen like the Gen 2 version, but the Gen 1, I gotta say, man, like the rivet design on the lid and the one latch,
Okay.
not good. So,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
I'm not like shaming them at all because it's an amazing case, and it really has saved my butt. But just over time, spending, you know, cases living their life on a truck or in a storage locker, random hands doing it. You know, there's just like a rivet design on the hinge that is just like pulls away from the plastic a little bit, you know? And then
Yep.
like, of course, it being one latch on it, TSA always is like putting their, you know, their stupid little papers in there. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, and it's
You
just
love
like,
notes.
and I remember like, yeah, I just remember it like coming out, you know, one time, and the case was open, you know, like coming down the
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
But
We used the
I
Enki X.
know.
I was gonna say we used the
What-
X's guitars on my last South America tour with the Calling, and those were great. But I haven't used them on bass yet. But I wish they made a 3-in-1. That would
that
solve
would
like
be cool.
yeah.
Yes, that would be
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the new version, what Ray Chu saying something here, the new version based my, yeah, I think the new version is going to come out, and I think the latest version has like an updated hinge design and a latch, like a better latch or something.
Yeah.
But that's not going to stop me from not buying the case. Like that thing has
Right.
been really, really great. And so, Mark, love you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's I just want to show, because I know we're running short on time here, and I'm gonna show your rig here. We
Yeah,
can't
please
do
do.
this without showing your let me see if I can share my screen here.
I don't really have a
There
time
you go.
limit either way. I know, Dom, you
So
gotta
you
go,
guys
but
talk about, yeah, it won't be as fun.
I'm
but-
happy to keep chatting.
So
Oh, nice.
this
Oh,
is,
there's the old gal. There she
Man,
is.
this is such a cool setup because
Cactus is my favorite one.
I mean you've
rather.
got your keyboard station here.
Yep.
Then you've got a VR and a CL.
Yep.
Then a 410 cab.
Yep.
I don't know what Fender this is, but I know you were kind of using that as a blend for your dirty sound, right?
Yeah, that's a Blues Junior. Mhm.
Blues Junior.
The Tweed.
410
Yeah,
is
Tweed Blues Junior.
that's a custom grill. Because that's an HLF.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
yeah. Mark, right, at Vintage Blue, is that right?
Yep.
Nice.
Mark
Yes.
Dannenberger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. He
Yep.
came through and made that custom grill, and then also too, it's not in the photo, but the CL has the same grill.
Oh, cool.
So the
Oh,
CL,
yeah.
the CL has that matching grill like the VR has. And because he was just like, I have this laying around. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah,
Nice.
of course.
That's Mark. That's Mark
Yeah.
too. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you've got is it Mulan or Moloon?
I
Base?
keep saying Mulan.
I think it is Mulan. We had talked about this.
Yeah, I think it's Mulan. That's what I've always called it. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Young June, but
And you can't find them anywhere. Like they're so in demand. Like he's got a waiting list, and when they do pop up on Reverb or wherever for sale, it's like they're instantly scooped up. So
yeah, it's definitely worth the wait. I will say that. So
okay,
it's pretty sweet. Like that thing is amazing. I have a '66 P base, the aged like Olympic white one right there.
Yeah.
And I was taking that out with me a lot. But I love that bass so much. It's very like monophonic, microphonic.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
so, and I'm like really nervous to like wax the pups. I'm just like, I don't want to mess with the vibe. I'm just
Right.
like so used to just like putting my tuner on with it
Yeah.
to prevent
Yeah.
any type of feedback or whatever. And also too, it's just like I definitely feel a little nervous bringing that on the road a little bit, so, but the
Yeah.
Mulan it's worth the wait. It's amazing. Everything that everyone says about them. Yes, it's true. So
Okay.
they're
right.
amazing. Yeah. And then, the Univox High Flyer,
Yep. Yep.
which is a phase 3. And then
Okay.
the Hofner Club, which is it's a real Hofner, like it's 68, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you used them. I mean, you used all three bases pretty equally through the whole show too. It wasn't like you stayed with one base primarily. And so, I mean, they all suit a certain purpose, obviously.
They do the thing, man. And I'd say like the Univox is kind of more of the workhorse of the set.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially, the record that we were touring, Mother Road, there's just so many sounds that have the thing that like the Hofner does.
Yeah.
And that the Hofner, it's just like when we all hear a Hofner, we all obviously think of McCartney and like those really cool thuddy things that the Hofner does. But man, that thing growls when you have it paired with the Blues Junior and you put it through. You just put like a little bit of reverb on it, because like a lot of what this record sounds like is very Southwest inspired. It's like a lot of like Tarantino soundscape type stuff, and so it's like the Hofner is kind of doing that blend of like a bass, well, like kind of like what a bass 6 would sound like a little bit, but still very much a bass where you really need to dig in.
Yeah.
So and the Blues Junior just provides that like mid-range crunch. The Blues Junior is essentially like my fuzz pedal in a way.
Yeah.
And you can see the AB switch next to my pedal board.
Yeah.
And that's
tell me more about your pedals too in that, if you don't mind.
No, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of just like the tried and true bass player layout. It's I have, starts with the tuner, and then goes, I have a clean boost because the P bass is just like a little bit quieter. So I have that on there. The Cali 76 is on there. That just stays on because that thing is incredible.
Yep.
And then Aguilar, that's the Agro Fuzz.
Okay.
Which is like the first gen, I guess, now, because I have to come up with a couple different ones.
Yeah.
And then the Optimizer, it's the Aguilar Optimizer. I had an OC2 on there for a very long time, and I loved it, but I don't know, just something about the optimizer whenever I use it, just like for what I needed it to do with Grace stuff, it tracks just a little bit better
Okay.
on some of the stuff. And then that pedal where the mouse is over right now is a tremolo. And we don't really play some songs in the set. We haven't done it lately, but I on Grace's Daylight record, I played on a tune called Repossession, and that's where I used the bass 6 on it. And I think Eric had the bass set up where I was going through a B15 and a Magnetone 460. So it had like that true vibrato. We dialed in that like true vibrato, sort of. It's like the Wichita lineman sound in a way.
Yeah.
And so the trem kind of acts as like the vibrato thing paired with the Blues Junior to kind of get that really plucky kind of sound. I feel like I've been able to like, fake it, a little bit, because it's not recreating that sound, but that's what that trem really only serves one purpose. And so I barely use that because we haven't played those songs lately. And then the pink one is the Squeakalizer. It's just one of my dog's toys that I put on there. So it's
awesome.
It's fun to just like press it, try to make Grace laugh. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, just a dog. And then of course the Noble.
Have the Noble. Yep.
Thing's amazing.
And that feeds everything up in front of house.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So front of house is pulling the Noble for the DI signal, and then has got a mic on the SVT on the cab. Or on the SVT. That's hilarious. A mic on the cab.
I've seen it done.
I was gonna say, I know. You laugh. I've seen it.
Yeah, totally.
That he was not to totally get us off track with this hilarious story. He was recording this singer that was like traveled with a bunch of orchestras, incredible opera singer. And he had her in the studio, and he was setting up the mic, and she goes, "Oh, honey, you don't need that. I project." And he was like, "How do you think you're getting on the record? Like, what?" It was hilarious. So she didn't think
she needed a mic.
Yeah, it's great.
I totally would have fed into that. I totally would have fed into that. That's so funny.
That's there's a lot of you can do whatever you want with that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I have seen there's that famous meme that's going around where it's not an SVT, it's a Marshall, and a guy's got a mic clipped onto the front panel of the Marshall, like, oh yeah, there's speakers in there. Go right ahead.
Immediately, that's what I thought of when I said mic the SVT. I was just like, immediately went to that meme,
Yeah, right.
But,
no, man,
I swear.
I gotta say, this is like, I remember when you first sent me this picture, and I was so like, that is so cool, because like you have I call it a station. And
totally.
No matter what gig I'm in, like when somebody starts invading my station, you don't get defensive, but it's like, even it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a bar gig. When somebody lays a cable across my station, it's like, hey, dude, put it behind my rig or put it off. Like, I have to stand here. Don't run cables through my station. Like, wow, Dino's like really touchy about his space.
We found a sweet spot or pressure point. Do you is that what keyboard are you using there? I'm trying to.
It's a Korg MS-2000.
And is that like just all mostly bass sounds, or are you actually doing like keys, chords, stuff like that?
It is a polyphonic synth, but it's just key bass on some songs, not a whole lot. But there's it's just one of those things where I've tried to fake it with the pedals, and it just doesn't do the thing. So
and you play it differently.
Yeah, totally. So I play that on just a couple of songs, and it's pretty sweet. I remember when we were like in those rehearsals. There's actually a funny story to that keyboard I'm going to share real quick, but it's a Korg MS-2000, which is like obviously like I think Adam Blackstone plays a MS-2000 a lot. Like just a lot of iconic sounds on that board. And my buddy, uh, he was like, he like sends a text and he's like, this was years ago, and he's like, I sends a text and he's like, hey guys, like I got this board, like I don't need it, like does anybody want it? And I like chimed in, I was like, dude, that's a Korg MS-2000, like yeah, I would love to have that thing. And I was like, what's the story behind it? And he goes, he was living in Echo Park, and he goes, yeah, it was, well, how this came to be was like I was in my apartment one day, and then all of a sudden I heard this like commotion on the street. So I just like I look out my window and I see my neighbor, and he's holding the keyboard, and he's like hitting like a transient, like a homeless person, like he's hitting him like back up, and he's using that keyboard. And he's like, I'm watching this happen, and then like the fight ended with him just throwing the keyboard at the person. And I was like, oh my god. And then he didn't think anything of it. Then he's like, yeah, then like a day later I get a knock on my door from my neighbor, and he's like holding the keyboard, and he's like, do you Scott, like do you want this thing, like I don't need this board anymore. And Scott's like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And then like, he plugged it in. Everything still worked just fine.
Wow.
And then that's when he sent the text, and I was like, I will gladly take that board. So
Amazing.
I got that thing for free, but it was a weapon, so it's funny if you zoom in, you can kind of see by the wheels, like there's no wooden piece on that side, and you can see on the other side. So there's and then like a lot of the knobs are like some of the knobs are just like missing, and like a couple are just bent, but they still work.
If somebody gets in your base station, you got a weapon right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you had to wait 90 days though, because it was used in a using a police scene.
Right.
Yeah,
that is so
but
cool,
it is this rig has been incredibly fun. This is very much like it's very much like a bass player's bass station.
Yeah.
It's
I will say the other thing too. It's like when you were changing basses throughout the show, you're doing your own changes. It's not like nobody's running a bass out to you and taking a bass from you. It's like you're unplugged, like there's no wireless, obviously the big coil cable. So you're managing your own space per se through the entire show.
Yeah. It's
really
cool.
cool.
As like the show goes on, it's like these movements become rehearsed without realizing that they need rehearsal. It's like I think I did it a couple days, or like the last fly date or something like that. I only brought 2 basses with me. The Hofner stayed back because it was just a one-off. And the first song in the set, Lady Vagabond, I used the Hofner on. And then like right after that song ends, it's just a matter of moments where Jordan like kind of picks up the next song, and we just kind of start vamping on this intro. And so, my thing, and I have to switch basses, and my thing is just like, I don't want to leave anybody hanging. It's like I want to be there with Jordan as quickly as possible. So it's just like that changeover becomes so fast. And of course there's like times where I drop my cable and I look like a dummy up there, but like on the side of the microphone stand where like the tightener is on it, like I have this like motion where I do this like little flick, and it like hangs on that knob, and then I can change, and then I pick that up, and it's just like these movements have become rehearsed. And it was funny when we did that one fly date after Lady Vagabond, I just instinctively did that, and I like unplugged, because I used the Univox on Lady Vagabond, not the Hofner, because I didn't bring the Hofner. And so here I am like unplugging this bass because it's just like ingrained in
Yeah.
me. And then I go to take the bass off and I had this moment. I was like, oh, I don't need to change basses. Like,
Yeah.
so like I just plugged it back in. But it was just funny that you mentioned, Dino, that, no one is handing a bass off to you,
That's a
like
big
it's
thing.
not, yeah, it's not just like playing the songs, like all these little
Yeah.
pieces. Like, Dom, I know with your gigs, man, it's these little things that like you pay attention to without really like realizing you're paying attention to.
Yeah.
And
I mean, just
like you're saying, one little change, and then you're like, wait a second, my routine's off. What's going on? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's stupid. I mean, stupid little things like, it is the jack on the bottom of the bass is the front mounted jack. Like it's all those things that you have to take into account when you only have like 2 or 3 seconds in between songs to orchestrate a bass change.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
yeah, that is very cool, man. I absolutely commend that and respect that, because it's not, you see the big rock star changes, where the roadie's coming out with the strap and the bass, and every bass has its own wireless transmitter, so there's no switching. And she's like, oh yeah, now I have to mute, I have to unplug, I have to secure my cable so it's not falling on the floor, change my bass, pick up the right bass, grab the cable so I don't drop it again.
Yeah. It's like the equivalent to like someone working in an office, and it's like, how quickly can you, like in Excel, like how quickly can you start a new column, or like or I don't know. It's like, I don't work in an office, but I can just like equate to like, what's that kind of thing, which is funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So.
Hey, listen, I know, Dom, you got to get going. I'm sure I'm sure they're knocking at your door right now.
Get quiet and have the conversations right here instead of the
Guitar Center people. Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap this up real quick, but cool. Kurtis, before you go, I didn't. You're all right there, Dom?
I'm just, I was like, there.
I know I didn't put this in the questions, but we do like a 10-question rapid fire. I'm going to ask you like quick questions, and you just got to answer it real quick. It's all fun stuff. There's nothing. It's all bass and touring related. So
awesome. Yeah.
It's just your whole identity as a bassist. That's all.
Yeah. It's just your whole, out of these 11 questions, we surmise exactly what kind of a bassist you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No pressure though. Okay.
Hit me. What do we got?
P bass or jazz bass?
Ooh, nowadays P bass. I started off jazz bass, but definitely P bass.
Passive or active?
Passive.
Rounds or flats?
Flats.
B15 or SVT?
Oh, dude, that's tough.
Or like SVT Pro.
No, you can't. Don't pollute it.
Man, yeah, I probably have to go. I would probably. Oh man, dang, that's tough. SVT, I would probably say, because it also applies to like a live application.
Okay.
So, like a B15, I've tried a couple times, and like a bigger setup, and it's not enough air. It's not enough air.
Yep.
So, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, but I do love a B15. But anyways,
there's no wrong answers. There's absolutely no wrong answers. Cable or wireless?
Cable.
Pick or fingers?
Fingers.
Okay.
Yeah, fingers. Yeah. You can articulate so much with your fingers. Like you can very much do the pick thing with the top of your fingernail, depending on what you're doing. You can use the corner of your thumb. Like you can, I feel like you can articulate a little bit more with your fingers, but when you need to pick, you need to pick.
All right. Pedals or no pedals?
Does the Cali 76 fall into that equation?
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, pedals.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Cali 76, the compressor.
But like you definitely need a fuzz and like an octave. Okay, we're
and
going
an
with
oval and an octaver. And
I know. I'm going with pedals. Yeah.
Okay. Window or aisle?
Oh, I'm aisle.
Okay.
Yep.
High bunk or low bunk? These two kind of work in conjunction with one another.
I'm a middle, so I prefer middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Driver, rear driver middle. So yeah.
Black with white piping or silver and blue? Talking about Ampeg Cosmetics.
Silver and blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember putting this one in here, Dawn, but hot chocolate or coffee? When did we put that one?
Recently.
That's good, man. Definitely coffee. Definitely coffee. Yeah.
I don't remember putting that one in, but and then the last one is favorite place to eat on the road.
Favorite place to eat on the road.
That is such a broad question, though. We got to fix.
Is it like a type of food, or like is there a specific
specific restaurant?
Specific restaurant. Oh man. I would say. I mean, the hospo is very much a thing. If we're just like general road trips, not just like touring too, but like road trips, like Chipotle is usually a good option, if we're like talking about a chain thing. That's usually like a good go-to, but I love like any type of Asian cuisine. So yeah, but I don't know if that answers it. I love like, okay, my favorite thing is like I want to find the local spot. I really try to stay away from chains if I'm out traveling. Like my wife and I are doing road trips, like we're stopping for a bite to eat. We're always looking for the local spot, that's what we're always trying to find. So,
but you always have to be careful of the local spots because that could derail your entire trip, and I won't get into specifics, but
right.
At least if you're eating at a chain, it can be for the most part it is safe. But I'm not going to hold Chipotle against you though.
It's funny because I feel like I barely eat Chipotle too, but like as far as like options go, like when you're driving, and you're driving through all those towns with all the just littered with chain restaurants, it's just like if I were to eat one of these, what would it be? I don't know, Chipotle. Like,
there's a lot worse. There's a lot worse choices out there.
Right.
Oh man. Well, listen, I know Dom's got to get going here, and man, we did a full hour and 20 minutes, and that's always great. Yeah, it's like
sweet.
It's like I say every time we do this, like, all right, we're going to cut it off in an hour, and in respect to the artists, that your time and our time, and and nobody wants to see the three of us, or at least Dom and I. Nobody wants to see the two of us for more than an hour.
Come on, man. Come on. Of course they do.
listen to my silly Boston accent for an hour. I mean, but funny. Man, Kurtis, thank you so much for joining us, man. This is always, I'm so glad you were able to do it. I was like, Dom and I were talking about like coming up episodes, and I'm like, man. And I looked at the rig rundowns I did this on. I only did a few of them, you being one of them. We did Harmony Kelly's rig, and she's been on the show a few times. And then we did Eloise Wong from the Linda Lindas, and we'll get her on. But the whole premise was like, who haven't we had on the show so far? And with 74 episodes, it's like, not that we're running out of people to interview, but it's just like, like who can we have on the show that number one has the time and wants to talk to our silly faces for an hour and a half. So,
oh, dude, I am just eternally grateful. Like I love that you guys, that like seriously that you wanted to hear me blab on. Like I really appreciate it. So
all great information, all great insight and great information, And next time I'm in LA, we'll sit down and grab some coffee. Maybe we'll get that glob guy. And
Yeah.
Dude, that would be amazing.
get-
Of course.
you,
And
usually like
Yeah.
Glob and Hutchinson and Hutch, all
Yes.
those guys are always down for a good cup of coffee, especially if we have to buy it. Of course, they won't
Yeah.
pay for it. So. And we'll get Mark
Dude.
Pacificar. We'll have
Absolutely.
we got to organize a base hang. Let's organize an Ampeg base hang, Dom.
It's
think-
like I was talking about that with someone last night at Drew's show, and just like ran into so many bass players, and like we did like one of these little bass hangs like a few months ago, and it's just like the greatest thing because like one thing I love about our community, I don't know if this happens with like drummers or guitar players when they get together or something like that, but like what's really cool about bass players is that like whenever you do these types of hangs, you barely talk about basses.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it makes sense to talk about it right now and do this, but like I love just like talking about life in general.
Yeah.
Just like where it like leads you, because I feel like I'm one of those persons that like I love to go deep at the drop of a hat, so
Yep.
And I'm like more than I just like want to be that like trusted person. I want to be able to listen, and I want to be able to be a support, in that way. But yeah, those bass hangs are just always so great because like,
Yeah.
wow, we've been, chatting for a while and we haven't even talked about a bass.
Exactly. That's exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely
That would be
have to
fun.
organize that.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man.
Awesome.
That'd be sweet. So,
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks again for watching.
thank you.
I think we're back on in 2 weeks, and I think it's just going to be Dom and I this time talking about
Cool.
some new products coming up and ideas, and every now and then it's just Dom and I, so we can get some ideas from some of the listeners on gear and get their insight and everything. So, everybody out there, thanks for watching, and we will see you in 2 weeks. All right, peace.
Sweet.
Thanks, Kurtis.
Peace. See you guys. Thank you.